Hello, and welcome to the All-Purpose Seasoning Podcast. I'm your host, Jack Chapman, and this week I'm joined by...
Edward.
Isaac.
Peru.
What is racism?
When a group of people feel like they're superior to another race via oppression, prejudice, discrimination.
The direct oppression towards a certain race, self-belief in one race being superior.
If you just discriminate someone because of like beliefs, culture, race.
Do you think you can be racist towards a white person then?
No, I don't. I don't know what I can say that you can deem racist.
Okay, I'm gonna put a situation in the room right now.
Alright.
If a white person's walked into a room and everyone else is of a different ethnic minority,
Okay.
if they pick on that person because he's white, is that racism?
That's
No.
more racial prejudice.
It's prejudice and it's discrimination, but it's not racism.
Because
Okay, so what's the difference between that and racism?
because reverse racism implies like me and you in the first place start off with the same power ranking when we don't.
Okay, imagine someone from another minority.
Yeah.
Could a black person be racist to someone like me?
Me personally, I think we can be racist to Asian people, but I don't
different colour,
see. I don't see how we can be racist to white people per se because they have been oppressing everyone else.
But now imagine there's a white kid that's in there as well. Now imagine this white kid, if a white boy like goes and wants to hang out with a group of black kids, and the only reason that the black kids are not letting him because they see him as not black, do you think that is that racism?
I don't think it's racist. I'm not saying it's right. It's definitely discriminating that person.
Yeah, of
and
course,
it's definitely you're judging them, innit? But I can't see it as racism.
So are you saying that racism is systematically?
Yeah,
Racism and discrimination
because
aren't the same
They're
thing.
not the same
It's
thing.
not.
They're interlinked, but they're not the same thing.
Yeah.
The only difference between like racism and discrimination is that racism includes oppression. That's like the prolonged period of unjust.
What do you think about all of this?
I think you're right. The problem I have is that what I said at the start.
Yeah.
So I treat everyone as a human being. If I don't like you, I don't like you. I'd never judge someone by the way they look. I judge them by the way they act.
Because like for instance now, I can turn around and say white men can't jump or white men can't run. But then you guys have the power in the first place to turn that satirical and you can make a film of that. And now that's just a funny thing.
But black people have done the same, have they not? White chicks. The problem I'm finding as a white person is that, especially when like the Black Lives Matter movement came around, I didn't know what to do. If I was to go to a protest, they'd be like, "Oh, you're just doing this because you're hopping on the bandwagon to look cool for clout."
But
when you say other people, who you...
that's what it is. I think you just got to understand both
And also
both
that's
perspectives.
Do you think then, I've seen loads of TikToks and they're just like, I think all black people should own their own planet or stuff like that. Do you think, or like,
That's doing too much. That's doing too much.
Personally, from my point of view,
Is that
stupid
from a
people.
black-
I could guarantee you, white people, Asian people, you got a little group being like,
Yeah,
yo,
exactly.
where this...
People that think like that are on the extremists. But if you are pro-black and saying I'm anti-white, then that's a bad thing. That's my point of view.
Okay.
I'm saying if you're pro-black, you have to be able to say, yeah, right, I'm pro-black, but everyone else is cool.
Do you think as a white person, pro-black is simultaneous with anti-white?
No. And that wraps up the first episode of our podcast. I'd like to thank everybody for listening, and hopefully we'll be back with some more topics to talk about in the near future.